This morning, I titled my sermon, Peace is the Word. And to be fair, I picked it not because it fit our theme, but because it reminded me of the show Grease. Have you seen the play or the movie? Grease is the word. So that's all I had in my head this week was, peace is the word. It's a little Supremes moment. I don't know. It was pretty exciting, but it'll work. Trust me. This morning, I want us to start with a game. Are you guys into games? You're into it. Okay, we're playing a game called Buzzword. So if you've ever played it before, what happens is I give you a phrase or a descriptive clue, and you have to come up with the phrase that it corresponds with. And there's a particular buzzword that's in every one of the answers. So for example, if the buzzword were apple, and I said nickname for New York City, you would say the Big Apple, right? Okay, there are no prizes, there are no winners and losers, it's just fun, okay? All right, so if you don't have a pen or a pencil with you, there's some in the friendship books, otherwise Deacon Lynn or Mary Lee have some as well. So just raise your hand, throw your hands up in the air like you just don't care, and need a pencil. Perfect. This is an on your honor kind of system, so if I hear you cheated, I will hold you responsible. Okay, all right, so the buzzword this morning is peace. So every one of the answers will have the word peace in it. Peace, P-E-A-C-E. Oh, it's 8:30. Okay, peace. Peace, 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 peace. Not like the pieces of a puzzle, but peace. Okay, I'm going to only read the clue twice because otherwise we'll be here for a really long time. So I'm going to only read it twice, and then we'll go through and then we'll check our answers, okay? Number 1. Lutheran church dismissal.
Peace be with you.
Oh, shh.
I missed it.
I was like, that's very good. Okay, Lutheran church dismissal, okay, number 1. Number 2, cliche wish made by beauty pageant contestants. Cliche wish made by beauty pageant contestants. Number 3, the final line of Silent Night. I know, now you're all singing Silent Night to yourself. Da, 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 da. Final line of Silent Night. First verse. Number 4, according to the Beatitudes, they shall be called the children of God. Number 4, according to the Beatitudes, they shall be called the children of God. Okay, this one's a shout out for my husband. Number 5, former Lakers player, previously known as Ron Artest. Terry Paulson, got it. Former Lakers player, previously known as Ron Artest. Okay, number 6, hymn of the 1890s. With It Is Well With My Soul. Hymn of the 1890s with It Is Well With My Soul. Okay. Number 7, volunteer program run by the U.S. government, established in the 1960s. Volunteer program run by the U.S. government, established in the 1960s. Okay, number 8, nickname for Jesus. Number 8, nickname for Jesus. Number 9, V is for victory, hand gesture. V is for victory, hand gesture. Number 10, worship component that involves greeting your neighbors. Number 10, worship component that involves greeting your neighbors. Number 11, popular tombstone inscription. Popular tombstone inscription. And number 12, Leo Tolstoy's finest literary work. Leo Tolstoy's finest literary work. It's the only one I didn't read, so that's okay. Okay, all right, back to the top. All right, let's see how we did. Lutheran church dismissal. Or go in peace. Go in peace is what we send you out with, okay? Cliche wish made by beauty pageant contestants. World peace. Final line of Silent Night, verse 1. Perfect. According to the Beatitudes, they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers. All right, number 5, former Lakers player, previously known as Ron Artest. Meta world peace. Oh. Number 6, hymn of the 1890s, It Is Well With My Soul.
Peace like a river.
Peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. Okay, volunteer program run by the U.S. government, established in the 60s. Peace Corps. Nickname for Jesus? Prince of Peace. V is for victory, hand gesture. Worship component that involves greeting your neighbor, passing the peace. Popular tombstone inscription, rest in peace. And Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. That was a terrible book. Did you read this? Oh, it was rough. Anyways, nice job. Thanks for playing along with us this morning. So peace really is the word of the morning. As I was going through thinking about peace, several images come to mind. I'm sure you have your own. Thinking about peace is like a treaty shared between two parties that say we will fight no more. Peace is also a view of the ocean where you have those small waves lapping against the shore on a brisk morning. Peace, those sacred moments for parents with young children when the children are still asleep and you actually get to read the paper and drink some coffee. Peace is the face of a loved one who's lost a hard battle of illness and now is in God's loving embrace. Peace is what we pray for when our heart is racing and our mind is at disease and we seek to calm our fears. Peace is what Christ brings to us, to our communities, and to our world. Wait a second. I read the text this morning and none of those things have to do with our lesson. It's not about peace. Jesus said, I came to bring peace. No, I came to bring a sword. Really, Jesus? This is one of those texts I talked about with Deacon Lynn this week where I said, okay, this is one of those texts you can't read during worship and ignore. Just let that linger in the room, like, oh, don't worry, you'll fight with everyone and it'll be fine. You can't walk away from that. That Jesus didn't come to bring peace, but came to bring a sword. And this is what forces us to look into the text, to think about, okay, what context is this coming out of and why on earth would Jesus say this? So we look to the context of this story, and Jesus is talking to the disciples and giving them instructions on what it means to belong, what it means to belong as followers of Christ. And he's saying the mission of Christ is not an easy one. And what it means to follow me is that you will be rejected, that there will be discord, there will be contention, and you will be at the center of it because you are proclaiming something that is not of this world. I wonder if Jesus is foretelling the future a little bit. We know he'll come into his fair share of violence, or rather that he's naming truth for each one of us and for his disciples of this time. The sword is really what represents how the world will react to what Jesus is bringing. That because of the message and the mission of what Christ carries, the idea that everything the world stands for will be upended, that power and authority and status as they know it will be turned on end, that the first will be last and the last will be first, and that everything will be redistributed to the lost and the lonely and the least of these, and that the ideas of this culture will mean nothing. Some people are going to be angry. That's what he's telling us. Some people are not going to be real excited about this kind of structure. And in fact, it might even upend your family structure. That it will pit you against father and mother and son, and that all of that will become a struggle that is all too real for us. Jesus, in fact, isn't celebrating violence or celebrating the idea that surely we can beat others into submission, but rather that the cost of discipleship, the cost of being a part of this community, in order to take up our cross and follow him, comes at a cost. It's a great cost, in fact. So maybe it's not that the idea of peace is inadequate, but our definition of peace. The idea that we think is peace that placates and soothes and, keeps things even keel, that's not the kind of peace that Jesus is bringing for the whole world. But Jesus brings a peace that speaks truth, that pushes boundaries in a way that we don't expect, and peace that finds a way. This morning's text from Jeremiah lends itself to this. Jeremiah 29 is my friend Kelly's favorite verse, and you'll see why. Jeremiah 29 says this, "If I say I will not mention him or speak any more in his name, then within me there is something like a burning fire shut up in my bones. I am weary with holding it in, and I cannot." The idea that if we don't say the things that God has called us to and to speak the truth about who God is and the amazing work that God is doing through us, it is like something burning within us. I like to refer to it as holy indigestion. It's that kind of view. You've had that before. It's not comfortable, but it causes you to pause. It causes you to make a change, and it causes you to speak a truth about what's going on so that that burning fire within you comes out as it should. So what does it mean to receive that kind of peace? The peace that burns within us and begs to be shared. Well, surely it is peace as a pure gift, but it comes with some responsibility. That as God's people, we are set free. We're set free with no cost of our, or at least rather doing of our own. We haven't done anything fantastic, but Jesus has. And because of that, we're called to set others free, to invite others into that freedom that we have experienced in the peace of God. So we are justified by faith alone, and then we seek to set others free in God's name. So we push these boundaries, recognizing that the peace that we have within us is also a peace among us. It's not like we're taking peace to far-off lands here and yon that don't have peace, but proclaiming the peace of God already at work in their midst. Recognizing that the peace of God gives us a sense of clarity, gives us a sense that we can be present, that we don't need to fear, that God knows the number of hairs on our head and values us more than the sparrow and lifts us up and walks alongside of us so that we can boldly proclaim the ways that God is doing transcendent work in and through us. So what does it look like to actually proclaim and share the peace of God? In the last few weeks, I had the opportunity to see the movie Wonder Woman. Have you seen it yet? Okay, some of us, if not, it's on your to-do list, okay? Seeing the movie Wonder Woman, I've watched just on my Facebook feed and in conversation with people that people are just moved. To see Wonder Woman, that first female lead superhero that takes to the screen, and they've done really well in the box office, and they already have a second one in the works. But when you read about it, women in particular, but I think people in general, are moved to tears at seeing her power and her strength displayed in this way. Just a little background of what the movie's about. Hopefully no spoilers for you. Diana, played by Gal Gadot, is the princess of the Amazons. She lives on an island called Themyscira, and she lives with her mother and her aunts, and they're Amazonian princesses. And before you get a picture of your head of what a princess might look like, it's not that. Amazonian princesses are fierce. I want to be a part of their life. They are, just powerful women, and you can see that they demonstrate this with grace and honor. And they know that their express purpose for the world is to protect the world from Ares, the god of war. So they're just waiting. But in their waiting, they're training and they're fighting and they're building up their strength. And one day, a fighter pilot kind of lands amongst them and says that there is war raging in the humans, within and among the humans, and that they need their help. And Diana feels a sense of mission, feels a sense of, okay, this is my reason for belonging. This is my reason for existing and being a part of this. Now, we find out later she's the daughter of Zeus, so that all kind of makes sense. But she goes out with this express purpose to fight Ares, the god of war. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine undertaking something like this, but Diana knows that this is her calling. And she goes to prove that this is what she can do to save all of mankind. And she goes out, and you see this ferocity about her, and this poise and this grace as she fights for something she truly believes in. But it ends up being more than she thought. And literally, when she is in the grips of the god of war, she realizes exactly what is at stake. She says this: "I used to want to save the world, to end war and bring peace to mankind, but then I glimpsed the darkness that lives within their light. I learned that inside every one of them there will always be both. The choice each must make for themselves, something no hero will ever defeat. And now I know that only love can truly save the world. So now I stay. I fight and I give for the world I know can be. This is my mission, now, forever." Wonder Woman has a Lutheran spin. Who knew? Who knew that Wonder Woman would tell us that inside each of us is a saint and a sinner? And this struggle within each one of us leads us to be in conflict with one another, even over the littlest things. But certainly over these big things where we proclaim these hard truths about what God is doing in the world and what God desires for us. And Wonder Woman helps us to see that some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth advocating for. Some things are worth standing up for. And that's all of our responsibility. That's what it means to be in discipleship with one another and discipleship as followers of God, that we stand up when something needs to be stood for, that we stand up for others. And we need not be afraid because God is with us. We are never alone, and it's really God acting within us with grace and integrity and compassion for one another. That we can speak truth at whatever cost in love, and that we can push knowing that the peace of God propels us forward, leading us to foster peace in and amongst us. In fact, we have the opportunity to practice peace every Sunday morning. I noticed we talked about as soon as I got here that we don't do the passing of the peace, and I have to tell you I miss it. I love to do the passing of the peace because it reminds us that we all belong to each other, that we're connected and we share in this common mission with one another. And so this morning we will have the opportunity to do the peace just for a short period of time. This is not the time to chat about your plans for this weekend. It's rather a time to connect with one another. And oftentimes when we do the passing of the peace, you shake hands with one another and you say God's peace or the peace of the Lord be with you. But rather this morning, I want you to think about, what are you proclaiming when you say peace be with you? What are you sharing with that other person? Are you sharing that God's peace frees us? Then I'd rather have you say that this morning. Are you sharing that the love of Christ moves us forward? Let's say that. Are you saying that we need not be afraid? Say that. Whatever you're going to say this morning, it's going to take a little practice because it's a whole lot easier to stand and shake someone's hand and say God's peace. But think about, just for a moment, what are you proclaiming? What kind of truth are you proclaiming this morning and every day? And get ready to say that to a couple people, okay? So I'm going to say a prayer to close our time now, and then we'll have just probably about a minute of the peace. So you're going to think about that thing you want to share this morning. And then Eleanor and the worship team will lead us directly into our next song, which is the hymn of the day. So let us pray. God of peace, we thank you for the gift of peace, which calms our troubled hearts and enables us to live not in fear, but in the promises of abundant life. Send us out to boldly share your life-giving peace with the world, because heaven knows we need it. It's in your name we pray. Amen. The peace of the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Please stand.